What does it mean to be seen, to be heard, to be known in your pain, in your wounding, in your discomfort, in your poor health, in your struggles, in your challenges? I think this is the ultimate human desire and ultimate human need, is just to be seen and heard and witnessed in the human experience. Kind of just from a big cosmic perspective, what's the point of all that we're doing? We're not, it's, generally humanity is moving hopefully to more and more evolved, mature, enlightened places of existence. But truly, what's the point? Except to experience life as a story and have that story be witnessed and seen and heard and known. So that's what I want to talk about today, and this may be a hidden reason that you are not reaching the health goals that you have been striving for, or the trauma healing goals that you've been working on. And the reason I know this is because I have experienced this myself. And what I wrote on Monday was, years of being told that my health issues were in my head and that I was just lazy and afraid of work left me questioning everything I knew about myself. Having my true reality witnessed and verified by compassionate others in key moments and ways was pivotal for the rapid healing and recovery that happened after. So the main experience that I was thinking of, and that was very transformational, was when I was 27. I had already gotten out of my controlling home at 22-ish. I'd gone through the Marine training. I found out that I had hypothyroid hypoadrenia. I knew there was some kind of fatigue. I'd experienced that my whole life. There was some kind of chronic issues. My health was terrible. I couldn't get stronger when I worked out. I got anything and everything that was going around. I was sick all the time, totally compromised immune system. And so I had already, in those years from 22 to 27, found some things that helped, like modifying strength training to where I could handle it, and I was getting stronger for the first time in my whole life. I think at that point I was playing a little bit of soccer, learning how to play soccer, learning how to play volleyball. So I was experiencing some victories. I'd gone through massage school. I was eating every couple of hours, because that was what the very first naturopath that I went to suggested when I was almost 23, when I found out that I had hypothyroid hypoadrenia. She said, eat it every 2 hours. That way I have energy coming in on a consistent basis. And I was able to kind of keep my energy up through that. I also had been implementing going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time every day. So my body knew when it needed to use energy and when it could rest. And so kind of got my circadian rhythms within my body a little bit better balanced. But still, I had all this fatigue. I still was having a hard time getting stronger. I was getting stronger, but it was very, 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 very slow. And I was still experiencing some of the symptoms that I'd experienced all my life from my fatigue and my allergy to sugar. And I didn't realize that I was sensitive to carbs as well. So all these things were still going on. I was seeing little bits of improvement, but all these things were still going on. And I met Dr. Nancy Lack at a health fair. I was working for the YMCA, so I was running a booth for the Y at the health fair, and nearby Dr. Nancy's table, she was doing body fat analysis testing. And so I just thought that'd be fun to figure out what my body fat percentage is, and was talking to her and telling her my story, and she was telling me what she did. And so that's when I learned about applied kinesiology, or muscle testing, to get immediate feedback from the body on whether certain foods are good for me or not good for me, or certain supplements were needed or not needed. So I thought, well, that sounds really interesting, and I wanted to go see her, and it was going to be a monetary commitment, but I through that conversation, I was convinced enough that she might have some answers that the 3 naturopaths that I'd seen in the previous 5 years didn't have. Because up to that point, I'd been told that I would have hypothyroid for the rest of my life. I'd be on thyroid medication for the rest of my life. And I was doing some stuff to support my adrenals, adrenal fatigue, but it just didn't feel like it was really hitting the root of what was going on. And I realized, many years later that probably the root of what was actually going on was the complex PTSD and the hypervigilance and the stress I was experiencing from my stressful and traumatic home and childhood. But I saw Dr. Nancy as this person who probably was going to be able to help me more than anyone else had, because of the technique that she was using, and able to get immediate feedback from my body, yes or no, for lots of different issues and supplements and foods. So I remember that first session. Going in, I was doing the new client intake form, which was quite a few pages. And I just remember just this feeling, kind of this aching in my heart. I just decided that when I was going through the pages and pages of symptoms and stuff, I was supposed to mark anything that I had experienced, any negative symptoms I was experiencing. And there was at other times, there was this desire to it's not that bad. Actually, I'm pretty good. I try to kind of be more impressive with my health. Yeah, I'm doing well here, and I'm doing well here, and I'm doing well here. And this time I was like, I want to complain about everything that I've ever experienced, even if I haven't experienced it recently. I am tired of not finding the answer to what's going on, and tired of not being seen, not being heard, not being witnessed, not being validated. And like I said in my statement on Monday, like I'd been told my whole life that I was lazy, that I was just afraid of work, that my fatigue, I was told, if we were going to go play basketball, you'd have enough energy for that. So, what's the problem? And it's true that, something that you enjoy, you're willing to kind of push yourself for, and some activities give you more energy than other activities. But still, I was completely invalidated in anything that I said that I was experiencing. And so on this form, I remember just like anything that I had ever experienced, I marked yes, 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 yes. Because I wanted that validation. I needed that affirmation, that witness that this is what I was struggling with. And she tested me and she confirmed that I was going through a lot of things, that my thyroid and adrenals were extremely underfunctioning still. And she got me on some new protocols, and I ended up seeing her every week for the first quite a few months. And then we were able to back off to every 2 weeks, then every 3 weeks, then once a month, and then once every couple of months, and all that over the years. I saw her for about 14 years, I believe. And, but what was cool is that in the first 2 months, my adrenals ended up testing at 100%. And then after 5 months, my thyroid tested at 100%. And at 27 and a half, I experienced energy, a normal amount of energy for the first time in my life. And it was life-changing. It was like, wow, this is incredible. And of course, I was still in the pattern of trying to prove I wasn't lazy, so I ended up like not enjoying the energy. I just worked more and did more things, and so I stayed fatigued in my experience because I was pushing myself all the time. But yeah, that the transformation that I was seeking came after being witnessed and having my challenges validated. And I think there is benefit to, whether it's someone else that validates, finding a listening ear. And it is important to be mindful of who you invite to witness you, because sometimes the people that we want to witness us have no capacity to do that. And so there is a need for wisdom in choosing who you seek out for that witness, that validation, that seeing, knowing, and hearing. But that was such a powerful moment for me, and I think I sensed in my heart that this was someone who was passionate about wellness, fitness, and she was equipped to witness me in my situation and validate me the way no other adult had in my experience up to that point. And it was really, really powerful. It reminds me, I've heard that when someone is in an auto accident, those who are hugged, even by strangers, immediately after the accident, are far less likely to develop PTSD than those who just have to answer police questions or, interrogation, just whatever mental, like what happened? Are you okay? What's your insurance? Yeah. So those who are able to be held, embraced, even by strangers, immediately after the accident are less likely to develop PTSD than those who are not. And the reason that is because it settles the nervous system. The nervous system is freaking out. You just had a traumatic experience. You're on high alert. You're experiencing hypervigilance. You're kind of in your fight, flight, freeze, fawn, activated nervous system. And that needs to settle. And so when you go straight to the mind, you leave the body in chaos, and you're like, what happened? Whose fault was it? What could have been avoided? This is going to cost this much. You're going to have a court appearance. We got to find the insurance papers. And that all the chaos and stress in the body and in the nervous system gets stuck there. There's no release of that. And so the priority is to meet the body where it's at, to nurture the body, to soothe the nervous system. And that's super powerful, way more powerful than the mind can comprehend. Because in the moment, the mind is going crazy. It's trying to track everything down, trying to keep track of the details, trying to sort everything out. And it really needs to just be quiet, and the body needs to be held. Just this last weekend, a bunch of my family was together, and one of my nieces stepped on the little heating grate that's in the floor, and her foot, not badly, just it was painful, uncomfortable, and she was crying. And so yeah, she was being asked what happened and all that stuff. And so I knelt down and said, would you like me to hold you? And she nodded her head, and so I picked her up, and she just laid there. She immediately stopped crying, and she just laid there for about 3 minutes, and then she was ready to get up and go run around and play again. But I was thinking about this and the nervous system in that experience, and just how much we all need that, way more than we realize, because it's so rarely available in our culture and in our family circles and social circles. So settling the nervous system is so powerful, and part of that comes through witness. So what I believe is that when Dr. Nancy Lack received my paperwork, all my complaints about my miserable life of health up to that point, and she reviewed that, and she tested me and got me on some protocols, I felt seen and heard and held and witnessed. And that was so powerful. And in that moment, I was able to let go of my story of poor health and really focus on pursuing vitality and an experience of wellness that I'd never had in my life before. And I believe that one of the reasons I struggled previous to that to get healthy, obviously there's some very practical aspects of what our professional relationship was like with the supplements and the testing and all those things. But I believe that one of the struggles that I had up to that point was that I was still kind of stuck, feeling like nobody believed me, that it was still all in my head. And so there was this story that needed to be told that wasn't being heard. And as soon as there was someone to hear it, I was able to start focusing on healing rather than the story of my poor health. So there is an aspect of finding someone else to witness us, to validate us, but how often do we stop and witness ourselves, validate ourselves? Sarah in this group sent me a video on confidence the other day, and one of the things he was saying was identify all of your limiting beliefs. What are the things that come up as barriers when you go to do something? And so he was talking about writing those out, making notes, either in a journal or put it on a sticky note where you can see it, or something. He actually said make a put as your cell phone background. And it's this kind of radical thought, but he said, name your limiting beliefs. Put them down. Like, I am not enough. And look at it and read it over and over and over again. And it's kind of the polar opposite of what we think we need to be doing. But I believe this is an example of witness. It's sort of like when someone comes to you and they're complaining about their life, and you're like, oh, but look at all these other wonderful things. And yeah, that's great to focus on the positive, but like they need to be seen in the moment for what they're actually experiencing as well. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to release it. So it's like a wound getting cut, and it's gotten beat up, and there's some dirt in there and all that stuff, and you're like, oh, let's fix that, and it's like you immediately go sew it up instead of cleaning it, letting it bleed, letting it do some cleansing, releasing whatever is in there, and then sewing it up and working on the recovery. So if you were to witness yourself, like what are your beliefs about you that were formed from childhood, from your early experiences? And I made a list of some things that I have heard over and over and over again in my head. And actually, it was amazing. Just typing them out, I felt a little bit lighter. So I have 7 here. I am not enough. I don't belong here. I shouldn't exist. I am a joke. My existence irritates others. I am a problem. I mess everything up. So all of these things have been subconscious beliefs in my head from the time I was super, super little. And whenever they got to the point of almost being conscious, I would try to smash them back down. Like, oh, that's not true. I don't believe that. and then just like immediately go to saying positive things or switching it around. And I haven't been witnessing myself. I haven't been holding myself, haven't been honoring my experience. And so as I look at these statements now on the screen in front of me, I realize that I feel more free to be an observer. It's like, oh, that's interesting that I held those belief patterns for so long. Do I actually think that's true? And do I want to keep believing that, or do I want to choose something else? And so it's not something that I feel like I'm going to get stuck in just because I've written it down. It's something that is now external to me, separate from me, and I'm just like kind of evaluating, is that something I will continue to choose to believe? And so I feel like there's great freedom in that practice of self-witness. So what have you been believing? And where did that come from? Can you have compassion on yourself for forming that belief based on usually pretty brutal circumstances? And do you feel the agency to choose something different? So finding people who can witness you, who have the capacity to witness you, and then choosing to witness yourself is extremely powerful. And I hope that you keep practicing that and keep searching for that.